Hey everyone, welcome back to the JISH Learn English podcast. I'm Shaelyn.
And I'm Jim. We're really happy to have you here again.
Before we begin, don't forget you can download the PDF transcript of this episode. It includes important vocabulary, short MCQ questions, and the full script, so you can read, listen, and speak along with us.
And yes, take a small moment to like, subscribe, and share this episode. It really helps us, and it helps you too, because staying connected means your English grows a little every day.
Today's topic is something that quietly shapes almost every part of our lives. It's called social pressure, the invisible force that tells us how to live, what to choose, and who to be.
It's powerful, isn't it? Social pressure is that voice in your head that whispers, "What will people think?" Even when nobody says anything directly, that small voice keeps speaking.
Yes, and it can come from many places. From family expectations, from society's comparisons, and even from what we see online. Sometimes we don't notice it, but it slowly shapes how we think, how we dress, what we study, who we talk to, and even how we measure success.
Right. It's not always bad. Sometimes pressure pushes us to do better, but most of the time it makes us forget what we really want. We start trying to fit into other people's ideas of happiness.
That's true. Many people feel tired, not because they're doing too little, but because they're trying too hard to meet expectations that aren't even theirs.
Exactly. It's like carrying a heavy bag that no one asked you to carry, but you keep holding it because everyone else is doing the same.
Beautifully said. And that's why today we want to slow down and talk about this invisible pressure, how it affects our life, why we don't have to answer everyone's questions, and how staying private can protect our peace.
It's not an easy topic, but it's a necessary one. Because once we understand it, we can start living with more honesty, not for others, but for ourselves.
All right, let's start with understanding the term social pressure. What does social really mean here? And why is the word pressure used with it?
Good question. When we say social, we're talking about people, the society we live in, the groups around us, our family, friends, colleagues, neighbors. And pressure means that invisible force that pushes you to do something even when you don't fully want to.
Yes. So social pressure means that feeling you get when you start doing things because of people's expectations, not your own wishes. It's like trying to fit into a shape that doesn't match who you really are.
Exactly. It's like when everyone around you says, "You should buy a car," or "You should get married soon." Even if you're not ready, you still start thinking, "Maybe I should," because everyone else is.
And that's how it starts, quietly, slowly, without anyone forcing you. No one holds your hand and says, you must do this, but somehow you feel the pressure inside.
Yes, it's not a physical push, it's an emotional one. It comes through words, looks, comparisons, or even silence.
That's true. Sometimes it's just the way people ask questions. Oh, you're still in that job? They don't say anything wrong, but their tone makes you feel small or behind.
Right. And sometimes we imagine the pressure even before it comes. Like we stop ourselves and think, if I do this, what will people say? That's when we know social pressure has already entered our mind.
Exactly. It's the invisible voice that shapes our choices. What to wear, what to study, who to talk to, how to live. And the most interesting part, it changes depending on where you are. What's normal in one society might be strange in another.
Yeah, that's so true. In one country, people might ask, "When will you get married?" In another, they might ask, "Why did you marry so early?" It never ends.
Yes, it never ends because people always have opinions. And that's why it's so important to understand what social pressure is so we can recognize it and not let it control our peace.
Beautifully said. So now that we understand what it means, let's talk about the different ways social pressure comes to us depending on where we are in life or what situation we're facing.
Yes, because it doesn't look the same for everyone. For some, it's about school and grades. For others, it's about work, money, relationships, or even the way they look. Social pressure changes its face, but the feeling inside is the same, the fear of not being enough.
Let's start with one that almost everyone remembers, the pressure on students and job seekers.
For students, life can feel like a constant race. The pressure is to get good grades, choose the right course, and build a perfect resume. And if you don't, you start to feel you're already falling behind your friends.
Yes, and that fear can be so strong. Your value starts to feel connected to your exam results, as if grades decide your worth.
Exactly. And it doesn't stop after school. When someone is looking for a job, that pressure grows even heavier.
You start feeling it from every side. The financial worry, the identity crisis, and the constant questions from family or friends. Any news on the job hunt? They mean well, but after hearing it many times, it begins to sound like judgment.
And the worst part is, in our world, people often connect your identity to your career. If you say, "I'm between jobs," people sometimes treat you like you've lost your value as a person.
Yes, that's the painful part. The question, what do you do, can sound very simple, but when you don't have an answer people expect, it cuts deeply.
Then there's another kind of pressure, gender-based pressure. Society doesn't treat men and women the same way, even today.
Right. For men, the pressure often says, be strong, don't cry, earn more, provide for everyone. It's like the world gives men permission to work hard, but not to feel deeply.
Yes, many men are told that showing emotion means weakness, but the truth is, feeling and expressing emotions is part of being human, not a sign of failure.
Exactly. And for women, the pressure is very different, but just as heavy. Women are expected to do it all, have a career, be perfect mothers, look beautiful, stay polite, and still have time for everyone.
Yes. Society calls it having it all, but in reality, it often means doing it all and feeling exhausted. Trying to meet all those roles can lead to deep stress and quiet loneliness.
Another very common kind of pressure is the life checklist pressure. It's like society secretly gives us a list when we're born. Go to school, get a job, find a partner, get married, buy a house, have children.
Yes, and if your life doesn't follow that order, people start to question you. You're not married yet? No kids? Still renting? As if life has one single path and everyone must walk on it at the same speed.
Exactly. And if you take a different route, they think you're lost, when in fact, you may just be taking your time.
Yes, but social pressure makes patience look like failure. It makes independence look like rebellion. It teaches us to judge instead of understand.
Let's go a bit deeper into career pressure. Even after we get a job, it doesn't stop. Now the pressure becomes be the best, work harder, get promoted, don't fall behind.
Yes, we call it hustle culture. The idea that if you're not constantly busy, you're not valuable. But that kind of thinking steals our peace. It turns life into a competition instead of a journey.
And we start comparing our everyday effort with someone else's highlight moment, their promotion, their vacation, their perfect life.
Exactly, which brings us to another modern kind of pressure, the digital and social media pressure.
Social media has created a new form of social pressure, one that never sleeps. You open your phone and you see people living perfect lives, and suddenly your own day feels smaller.
Yes, it's called the highlight reel effect. We compare our behind-the-scenes life to someone else's best moments. We forget that people only post what looks good, not what is real.
And then comes the pressure to perform, to look perfect, to post something exciting, to prove you're doing great.
Yes, and when you don't, you start feeling invisible, as if your quiet, simple life isn't good enough. But peace is not a photo. It's a feeling.
Exactly. And then there's FOMO, fear of missing out. You start feeling that everyone else is living better, doing more, enjoying more, even when most of it isn't true.
That's the digital mirror. It reflects everyone's dreams, but hides their reality.
Another big dimension is cultural and family pressure, especially for people who live between old traditions and new dreams.
Yes, this is often seen in first-generation families, where children grow up in a new culture but carry the expectations of the old one. They feel like they must succeed, not only for themselves, but to justify their parents' sacrifices.
That's a heavy weight to carry. You feel grateful, but also trapped between respect and freedom.
And then there's the fear of gossip, that common phrase, "What will people say?" It's such a small sentence, but it controls entire lives.
Yes, it's one of the strongest forms of social pressure in many communities. It teaches people to choose silence instead of honesty and image instead of truth.
And finally, there's one more, the pressure of lifestyle and consumerism. Today, many people feel that their value depends on what they buy. A bigger phone, a better car, a new brand, all to look successful.
Yes, it's the pressure to consume, the idea that happiness is something you can order online. But the more we chase it, the emptier we feel.
Exactly. Social media influencers make it worse sometimes, showing luxury, travel, and beauty as the measure of success. But behind those pictures, there's often stress, loans, or sadness we never see.
Yes, the truth is simple. You don't have to own more to be more. Peace doesn't come from what you show, but what you know inside yourself.
Beautifully said. And that's what makes understanding social pressure so important, because once you can name it, you can stop letting it control you.
Exactly. You start realizing that most of the pressure isn't coming from outside. It's something we slowly learn to carry inside.
Yes. Jim, discussing this, I'm recalling a similar experience from my own life. I actually want to share that. Can I?
Of course, Shaelyn. We'd love to hear it. Please, go ahead.
So, I've always been what people call a good student. In school and college, I was praised a lot. Teachers trusted me, my parents were proud, and everyone around believed I would do something big in life. At first, that felt nice. Who doesn't like appreciation? But slowly, it became a kind of pressure. I started feeling like I wasn't allowed to fail, not even a little. After graduation, I began preparing for one of the toughest and most prestigious exams in my country. Everyone admired that. They said, "Wow, you're doing something great." And for some time, I believed it too. But after a few years, something inside me changed. I started feeling disconnected. The more I studied, the emptier I felt, like I was walking on a path that didn't belong to me anymore. At the same time, I discovered I loved teaching. I wanted to teach and also earn on my own. But I couldn't say that out loud because everyone knew what I was doing and they had expectations. If I quit, I thought people would say, she gave up. And that thought scared me more than failure itself.
That must have been really heavy to carry.
Yes, it was. For months, I kept pretending, studying during the day and secretly planning my teaching work at night. Finally, I decided to stop pretending. I told my family I wanted to leave the exam path and start working. It wasn't easy. I cried a lot. Some people said I disappointed them. And even now, sometimes I still hear comments like, "You had such a good chance. Why did you stop?" But today, I'm peaceful because I'm doing what I love. I still feel the pressure sometimes, yes, but now I also feel stronger. I know what I want, and that clarity helps me walk forward without guilt.
That's so powerful, Shaelyn. Thank you for sharing that so honestly. And I think many listeners can feel the same, that silent fight between what the world expects and what the heart really wants. I've had something similar too. When I first started working, I joined a company just because everyone said it was the dream job. The pay was good, the office was fancy, but I used to sit there staring at my computer and feel completely lost. I wanted to do something creative, to teach, to write, to use my voice. But the idea of quitting a good job scared me. It took me years to realize that a good job isn't always a good fit. And when I finally left, people asked, "Why would you do that? Are you crazy?" But that decision changed everything. I started feeling alive again.
That's beautiful, Jim. I think that's the real meaning of peace, when your choices start matching who you are.
Absolutely. And to everyone listening right now, have you ever felt this kind of pressure? Maybe from your family, your workplace, or your friends. If you feel comfortable, share it with us. We'd love to hear your stories, because the more we talk about it, the lighter it becomes.
And now, till here, we've understood what social pressure means and the different forms it takes. But let's go a little deeper. What does this pressure actually do to us? What happens inside our mind and heart when we try too hard to please everyone?
That's a really important question, because social pressure doesn't just stay outside. It quietly enters our thoughts, our confidence, even our health. Let's start with something that affects almost everyone: stress and worry. When you keep comparing your life with others, you start to feel like you're always behind. You may be doing fine, but your mind says you're not doing enough.
Yes, that silent feeling of, I'm not enough. It eats away at your peace. When you wake up in the morning, instead of feeling calm, you already feel like you're in a race, and you don't even know who started it.
Exactly. And that constant worry can slowly turn into anxiety, burnout, and even sadness. It's like carrying invisible weight every day. No one can see it, but you feel it in your chest, in your breath, even in your sleep.
And that's not just emotional. It affects your body too. Many people lose sleep, get headaches, or feel tired all the time because their mind never really rests.
Right. Then comes something deeper: low self-esteem. When your worth depends on what others think, you start believing that your value is decided by their approval.
That's true. For example, when a student gets good grades, everyone says, "You're amazing." But when they fail, they feel like they are a failure. Not that they just failed an exam. They start connecting their whole identity to success or failure.
Yes, and that's very dangerous, because your opinion of yourself becomes weak. It changes depending on what others say, and soon you start losing your true voice.
Which brings us to another effect, identity crisis. You begin to forget who you really are. You start living for others, dressing for others, making choices to keep others happy, until one day you don't recognize the person in the mirror.
That's such a painful place to be. You look successful from the outside, but inside you feel lost, like you're playing a role, not living a life.
Yes, and that leads to unhappiness and regret. Many people realize years later that they followed a path that never belonged to them. They did everything right, but still don't feel satisfied.
That's the hardest part, when you realize you built a life based on others' dreams. And that realization comes quietly, in moments of silence, when you ask yourself, is this really me?
And because of that fear, the fear of being judged, we often stop ourselves from trying new things. We say, what if I fail? Or what if people laugh? So we stay in the same place, even when it makes us unhappy.
Yes, that's decision paralysis. The fear of making the wrong choice becomes so strong that you make no choice at all. You stay stuck, not because you can't move, but because you're afraid to.
And then there's something I've seen in many creative people, the loss of passion. When you care too much about judgment, you stop doing what you love. Artists stop painting, writers stop writing, students stop exploring new ideas because they worry it won't be good enough.
Exactly. And social pressure kills creativity. It teaches us to choose safe paths instead of meaningful ones, to chase approval, not purpose.
Yes, and that's the real cost, because when we live under pressure for too long, we stop hearing our inner voice, the one that quietly says, "This is what I truly want."
Beautifully said. And that's why understanding the impact is so important, because only when we see how it hurts us, we can begin to heal from it.
Yes. So now that we have understood what this pressure does to us, let's move to something even more practical. How do we protect our peace in a world full of opinions? How do we stop answering everyone's questions and instead focus on living our own truth?
That's such a good question, Shaelyn, because honestly, this is where most of us get stuck. We may understand what social pressure is, but we don't always know how to protect ourselves from it.
Yes, we often keep trying to explain, justify, and answer, hoping people will finally understand our choices. But the truth is, they rarely do.
Exactly. And that's where we need to make a small but powerful shift, from living for validation to living with purpose. You don't have to answer everyone's questions. You don't have to explain your whole life every time someone asks, "So, when are you getting married?" or "Why don't you have a job yet?"
Yes, some of those questions aren't even real questions. They're just habits. People ask them without realizing how they sound or how heavy they can feel for the person listening.
Right. It's like a social ritual. But here's something important. You are not required to participate in it. Not every question deserves your answer.
That's true. Sometimes silence is stronger than a full explanation. When you don't explain, you protect your energy. Because think about it. Every time you explain your plans or defend your dreams, you use up emotional energy. And that's energy you could have used to learn something new, apply for a job, or even just rest.
Exactly. Explaining yourself is draining, and it doesn't change much anyway. People who want to judge will still judge. So instead of convincing others, start focusing on doing.
Yes, and that's why I love this simple principle. Be private and do your work. It doesn't mean hiding in fear. It means being smart about where you put your focus.
Beautifully said, Shaelyn. Being private is not about being secretive. It's about creating a sacred space where you can grow freely without the constant eyes and opinions of others. Because when your goals are still forming, when your dreams are new and fragile, they need protection. Sharing them too early opens them to doubt, comparison, and unnecessary noise.
Yes, I've felt that too. Sometimes when you share your big idea or plan, people give you all kinds of advice or even tell you why it won't work. And suddenly you start doubting yourself before you've even begun.
Exactly. That's why it's better to work quietly. Focus on the action, not the announcement. Don't say, "I'm planning to start something." Just start it. Don't tell everyone, "I'm preparing for this." Just prepare. Because when you act in silence, your progress speaks louder than your words ever could.
Yes, that's so powerful. And when you stay private, you also give yourself the freedom to fail, learn, and start again without feeling embarrassed. It's like having your own little safe space where you can experiment and grow without judgment.
That's true. Privacy gives you room to be human, to fall, to rise, to change directions, all without the noise of, "What will people think?"
And I think that's what most people need. Not more advice, not more opinions, just a quiet space to figure things out.
Yes, and I want to say something very clearly to everyone listening. You owe no one your narrative. You don't have to explain why you're single, why you changed your job, or why you didn't go to that university. Your story is yours to share only with people who've earned your trust.
Exactly. We often feel guilty for not answering, but remember, silence is not rudeness. It's a sign of self-respect.
Yes, and protecting your focus is not selfish. It's wise, because your energy is your most valuable capital. If you keep spending it on defending your choices, you'll have nothing left to build your dreams.
That's so true. It reminds me of something my mentor once said. Don't talk your energy away. Work it into something visible.
Beautiful. And that's really what be private and do your work means. It means create, practice, learn, grow, quietly, consistently, and with dignity. Don't waste time talking about what you will do. Let your progress tell the story for you.
Yes. And when you live this way, slowly the noise outside starts fading. You begin hearing your own thoughts more clearly. You start asking better questions. What do I really want? What makes me happy? What does success mean to me?
And that's where true freedom begins, when you stop comparing your journey to someone else's checklist. You don't have to tick the same boxes: house, marriage, car, promotion. None of these define your worth.
Yes, your worth is not a number, a title, or a label. It's defined by your kindness, your effort, your peace of mind, and how honestly you live your life.
Exactly. So protect your energy, guard your dreams, and let your work speak quietly for you. Because peace, once you find it, is more powerful than approval.
I love that. Peace is more powerful than approval. That's a line worth remembering.
It really is. And maybe that's the heart of this whole episode. You can't control what people think, but you can control what you focus on. And when your focus is your growth, your peace naturally follows.
That's so true, Jim. And, I think the hardest part is unlearning the habit of explaining yourself. We've been raised to think we owe everyone an answer. Why we chose a job, why we're not married yet, why we didn't go abroad like others. But the truth is, you don't owe anyone your story. You owe yourself peace. You owe yourself focus. When I stopped explaining myself for every small choice I made, I started feeling lighter, freer. Because every time you answer someone's unnecessary question, You give away a little piece of your energy. And sometimes that's the very energy you need to build your own life.
Exactly. And Shaelyn, there's this idea I really believe in. Your plans are sacred until they're strong enough to stand on their own. When you share too early, when your goals are still fragile, other people's opinions can shake your confidence. They'll say, "Are you sure that will work?" Or, "That's not practical." And suddenly you start doubting something that once felt right in your heart.
Yes, and it's not because they want to hurt you. Often they just don't understand your journey. But that's why being private is powerful. It's not about hiding. It's about protecting your space to grow. When you work quietly without noise, you create this calm, safe zone where you can fail, learn, and rebuild without the fear of judgment.
And that's where real confidence is born. In silence. Not in explaining, not in proving, but in doing. Sometimes the most powerful sentence you can say is nothing at all. Just a small smile and, "I'm working on it." Because honestly, you don't have to win the argument. You just have to win your own peace.
I love that, Jim. And to everyone listening, maybe this is something you can start practicing from today. Next time someone asks a question that makes you uncomfortable, pause for a second. You don't have to explain your life or justify your choices. Just say something calm, like, "I'm figuring things out," or "I'm focusing on what feels right for me."
Yes, simple, polite, and powerful. Remember, your life is not a public report. It's your personal journey. Let your actions speak for you. Work quietly, build slowly, and let your growth make the noise.
That's the beauty of it. When you focus on your work and your peace, you stop chasing validation. You start creating real success, the kind that feels peaceful, not pressured.
And maybe that's the real freedom we all want. To live without constantly explaining ourselves. So let's ask our listeners, have you ever felt tired of explaining your life to people? What happened when you started keeping some things private?
We'd really love to hear your thoughts on this. Share your story with us. You never know, it might help someone else who's struggling with the same pressure. And remember, protect your energy, be private, and keep moving forward.
That's it. Quiet growth, peaceful success. Beautifully said, Shaelyn.
Thank you, Jim. And to everyone listening, you're doing just fine. Don't let the world rush you. You are allowed to move at your own pace.
Take a deep breath. Stay kind to yourself. And we'll see you in the next episode.
See you soon, dear listeners.